there'll be no questions taken from the audience tonight, but all the candidates were asked that if their schedule could permit, if they could remain here for about a half hour afterwards, or up to a half hour, so that if any of you had individual questions that you wanted to ask them, you'd have a chance to ask them that individual question. Okay? Since you don't have a right to ask a question, I'm not going to ask if there's any questions. We'll go ahead and get started. Okay, we're going to start now with an opening statement, and the sequence is going to be Alexander, Ortiz, and Penman.
Press the button and hold it.
There you go. Good evening, everyone. Hello, I'm Damon Alexander. I'm your current 7th Ward City Councilor. And I was elected in 2020. And I would just like to share a little bit about myself. I've lived in San Bernardino approximately 35 years. My children matriculated through the school system here in San Bernardino, graduating at Cajon High School, Cowboys. And we should all be proud because the first Heisman Trophy winner graduated from Cajon High School, Jalen Daniels. The parade is this Saturday at 10 a.m. at Cal State San Bernardino. So if you can all come out and help support that parade, we would be proud because that's a graduate of San Bernardino. I'm a person of service. I've been serving all my life. I started that service with the United States Marine Corps, MCRD San Diego. I came out, I became an airborne Marine, and jumped out of planes and helicopters fashionably. And then I turned to serve our country as a United States federal agent with the United States Department of Justice. I served in that capacity for 29 years, and then I retired. And so I thought. For community service, I served and was tapped to serve on the police commission. I was served on the police commission for 5 years in the city of San Bernardino. My colleagues on the police commission elected me to serve as chairman for 1 year on that commission. But while on that commission, the city was going through some issues with cannabis. So the city formed a cannabis commission, if you remember. Well, I was tapped by my city councilman at the time to serve on that commission as well. And then was elected by those 9 members to serve as their chairman to form policy on cannabis at that time. And here, as President John welcomed you, I welcome you as a past president of NENA. I served as president of NENA from 2018 to 2020. And while I was president and while I sat on the board, I initiated what you guys come to know as the Christmas decoration contest. I initiated that and my colleagues on the NENA board, and we've been doing that ever since. We've been giving out prizes for the best decorated house, trying to, and my issue, oh my gosh, really? My issue with that was to,
15 seconds.
okay, was to try to esprit de corps of the community. Myself, Marisol, and Dina Cervantes, we started the Christmas Caravan that you all see. We did that, again, to try to explore and to do the Christmas Caravan. Thank you very much. And I'll pass it out.
That's what a public comment feels like. Can everybody see me? We're good here? All right. So thank you guys for coming tonight. It's such an honor to have you here, and for those of you that are watching us online, and for those of you that don't know, I'm Dr. Treasurer Ortiz, and I am so happy to be a candidate for the 7th Ward, because this is an amazing place to live. This is where I chose to live and buy my home. At one time when you used to be able to come here and ask where do you want to live in the city of San Bernardino? Everybody told you, you go above the 210, below the 40th, and you're going to have a great quality of life. But you know that today, in 2024, we're not number 1 anymore. We're not even number 2. We are number 3 behind the 5th and the 4th ward in the prices of our homes, in economic development, and in safety. Tonight, what I want to do is answer the questions to the most pressing issues that we continually talk about in our community, and lay out a plan that I believe will not only work collectively for the city as a whole, but will really boost the 7th ward. And this isn't a plan that I came up with all on my own. This is actually a plan from a culmination of years of being with you guys in the meetings, online during the agenda reviews, in the community updates on my podcast, and late night phone calls when you people are so frustrated with the lack of progress and the continual politics played with our lives. Being a part of San Bernardino is special. It's not just about the I. The past failed us. The present is keeping us right here, stuck. It's time to get in the driver's seat and take hold of our future. It is time to look at what does the city look like for you in 10 years, in 15 years, in 25 years. And I said that to a resident and they said, God, I'm not going to be here in 25 years. I said, then why would we have leadership that can't see that far either? Why are we not planning for our kids and ourselves? The demographics of the wards have changed. The demographics of the city have shifted, and we have to shift with it. Tonight is a special night for you guys because you get to make the decisions. You get to hear it for yourself. No one is going to sugarcoat it for you. And I want to be your 7th ward council person. I want to be the person you continue to talk to, that you continue to see, and who informs you and tells you this is what they're doing and this is what we have to either stop, change, whatever. Because being engaged, being empowered, and being educated is everything. And I know that together we can make San Bernardino an all-America city again. Thank you.
Every person in this room, every person who watches one of our city council meetings knows that infighting, opposition, and conflict dominate those meetings. That is what gets in the way of good governance. That is what causes problems for the residents of our city, for our children, our grandchildren, and our businesses. That's what needs to change. I have the experience, the knowledge, and the skill set to bring about that change. I have served as your police commissioner. I have served as the chairperson of your police commission. I have served as your human relations commissioner. I have served as your civil service commissioner. I have served as your elected city attorney for 26 years. And unfortunately, there is no current office holder in the city, and there is no current candidate for city council in any ward that comes anywhere near to matching that experience. More importantly, I have the proven integrity, track record, and intestinal fortitude, I'll say it, the guts, to make the tough decisions that have to be made to turn this city around. I make every decision, and I made every decision when I was holding elected office, as though I would never again be a candidate for public office. That is important, because otherwise you get tied up with special interests, you get tied up with bad governance, and we do not need that. We've had enough of it. I intend to continue that practice should you choose me as your 7th Ward Council member. And the other thing I will do before I make any vote is I will always ask myself, what is in the best interest of my constituents who live in the 7th Ward? What is in the best interest of the 7th Ward? And what is in the best interest of the city of San Bernardino? Thank you.
Okay, now remember that we agreed that there'd be no applause, no noise making until the end. So I let that go because it was on the first one. I wanted to give everybody equal opportunity, and I'm sure they appreciate it, but they'll understand if we all go silent and just listen. So I appreciate your help. Okay. Question. How do you view public safety's role in our city? And if you could implement one policy or program, what would that be and why? The sequence is Penman, Ortiz, and Alexander.
The main concerns of all of us who live in the 7th Ward are the homeless and public safety. And the two are intertwined. Therefore, the one policy that I would implement votes are a little faded for the new thing. Listen to our police chief. He is the expert that we have hired to handle law enforcement in this city, and he has done a great job. In a little over a year he's been here, crime has gone down, murders have gone down, and guess what? The complaints against our police officers have gone down. That is fantastic. We tried for years to get that done. That's happened now. Yet the chief's recommendations are filtered by and through our city manager before the city council hears them. We've had a succession of failed city managers in this city. Their priorities are not yours. Their priorities are not mine. I've already told you what our priorities are. That's what needs to be done. The chief told me 2 years ago he needed 400 officers. And today he has what, about 298? That's, someone has said we need 500. I'll tell you what we need. We need a city ordinance that requires the city manager and the council to provide between 3.5 and 4 police officers, strike that, 2.5 and 3 police officers for every 1,000 citizens. Now people say, oh my gosh, you can't do that. Yeah, we can. How do you do it? You get with the chief. You ask him a few simple questions. Chief, how many officers do you think you could bring on in a year? And he tells you. There's a lot of work to do. And we have to look at the budget. We have to look at other departments. But our priority right now is clean up the city, get rid of the crime, at least reduce it, and get our homeless into safe mental health programs, into safe housing with anti-addiction programs, and with job training programs. And we can do that. There are ways to do it. Reno has done it with their model, and we can do it here. So we need to listen to the expert, not micromanage the police department or the city manager. Let the chief do his job. Thank you.
So I look at public safety differently. Because what we've done in our community since the bankruptcy was put everything on the weight of the police department. We told them, not only are you going to be law enforcement, you're going to be homeless advocates, you're going to be trash picker-uppers, you're going to be code enforcement, you're going to be everything. But that's not actually the role of public safety. In fact, public safety isn't just policing. We create our criminals in this city by a lack of investment into the youth, by a lack of investment into jobs, into the economy. So the role of the public safety, as I see it for officers, is catch the bad guys. And the role of us as a community is to do better. And the role of the council is to make sure that we have the mechanism and resources to do that. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach anymore. That's why we're failing. We have no relationship with the school district. I want to build a cadet to career program. I used to hire for the police department. I took us from a 99% fail rate in a year and a half recruitment down to 82% in 6 months. And that may not sound like amazing, but I'll tell you what, to go through a recruitment of 150 to 300 people every 6 months changes how fast we can get people here. But kids who get into the cadet program between 18 and 20, they have to go somewhere else because we don't have anywhere for them to be. What we should be doing is creating part-time jobs so that they can be working, already passing the background to be in the police department, getting a criminal justice degree, being parking enforcement officers, CSOs, whatever we would need so that when they're 20 and a half and ready, they can go to the academy. And they should be coming from our community. We should have homegrown heroes who know us, because when you know your community, you don't harm it. When you know your neighbor, you don't want to be in the opposition gang. Let's let the police department breathe. And let's have the city actually run. We're past the bankruptcy years. Now is the time. Public safety means a safe public, not just the burden on the police department. Thank you.
Public safety. It's more than police. When you look at it from a council point of view, or you look at it from my point of view, public safety means how do people view our city? Two things when people move into our city, ladies and gentlemen. They look at the crime rate and they look at the school district. If you're going to have children or you're going to have children, they look at those two issues. Because those are the most important issues to a family or someone moving into the city. So when you deal with public safety, you have to deal with sidewalks. Because I don't look at public, but I look at sidewalks. Because when you walk down the sidewalk and there's a raised sidewalk, that's about safety because they don't see the reports that I get. When someone trips and falls and breaks their arm or stubs their toe, that's safety. That's why the Public Safety Commission falls under the Public Works Department. It has all to do with trees falling down. That's safety because it falls on a car, and I see the reports where it has injured people. That's safety. That's your public safety. Those are issues that we address. Those are the role of public safety issues. We have to look at it from a wide spectrum. And what would I do? The question is, what program would I do? What would I institute? Well, if I had my magic wand, I would take it and I would say, hey, can I get a traffic strike? Because you guys share with me all the time how fast drivers are going. All the time. Everywhere in the ward, and that's all over the city. So if I had my magic wand and I can make a program, it would be that. Because when I first got elected, they raced up and down 40th like it's Pomona speed ground. So we instituted a light up there. Many of you in the 7th Ward asked for stop signs. We got those. We did a survey. We got the stop signs because that's public safety. It doesn't always have to be police. It can be other issues of public safety. Stop signs, flashing lights. Have you seen the stop signs now where they have the little strip on them? That's safety. Have you seen the lights where they have the little amber strip around the stoplights? That's safety. That's all the stuff that we agreed to. That's public safety, so there's no injury. You have to look at all those aspects when it comes to public safety. Thank you.
The city council embarked on a general plan update years ago with a promise and expectation that this document would guide and enhance economic vision and development. Would this be a priority to you, especially with a high rate of San Bernardino citizens on welfare and below the poverty rate? What would be your short-term and long-term solutions to induce economic development in our city? The sequence is Alexander, Penman, Ortiz.
The general plan, which we're way over, you're supposed to redo the general plan every 10 years. We got $2.5 million from Assemblymember Ramos to do the general plan 3 years ago. 3 years ago, just when I was coming on the council. We've asked, and then we put in the rest of the money. And then we hired PlaceWorks to do the general plan. PlaceWorks. PlaceWorks came, and if you remember, PlaceWorks came and the council said, hey, how many workshops would you want to do to make sure that we receive input from the citizens? We did 21. 21 divided by 7, 3 in each ward. That's what we did. So you can come out at various times, Saturdays, mornings. We did it at various times. It was recorded, so we can have your input, so you can have a say on what San Bernardino is going to look like in the future. Well, I've been asking ever since we stopped the money trough of PlaceWorks, because they came back to the council, if you remember, and they asked for more money. And we told them no, because we're stewards of your money. And then ever since we've told them no, we haven't seen them. I've asked my commissioners who sit on the general and specific plan, hey, have you seen or have you gone to any more meetings? They have no. I've asked the last city manager and the current city manager, what is the status? Well, the current city manager is, well, I'm new, we're working on it, they're supposed to come. That's the answer I get. But I have not forgot about PlaceWorks. No one on the council has forgot about PlaceWorks or how we're trying to get this accomplished, because it has been far too long since they've done this. They should have came back to the city a year and a half ago with an answer. We have not let them off the hook. What we're going to do with the economy is continue to press forward and do the things that you need us to do. Thank you.
If it still isn't finished, this will be the fourth general plan I worked on as city attorney. And I can tell you one thing in common, none of them are ever followed. Yes, the law requires it 10 years. And we got them done on time. I was there. General plan should have been finished long ago. But our general plan must be realistic and fit our community needs. Some of the measures of that reality are the demographics, the income of our citizens, the availability of resources, and the capital. It will be my short-term priority to get a realistic general plan adopted by the Mayor and Common Council, if it isn't run by then. But it must reflect the reality of our population, our present businesses, and must be realistic enough to attract new businesses and new investors in our city. Part of that necessity is to clean up the city and reduce crime and provide adequate housing. How does that relate to the general plan? General plan is supposed to govern our future, how we build our city. There might be a very few businesses, new businesses, that will come and invest in a city that is filthy, in a city that you see homeless everywhere, in a city where the crime is so high and there are so few cops that you call and wait forever. But most strong, top-notch developers and development and businesses will not come here. That has to change. It has to change. We have to grow and return reclaim our once dominant position as the hub of the business activity of the Inland Empire. I've been here all my life, kindergarten through college. And I spent a lot of years in the city when it was still a strong city with good government. I know how it works, and I know how it doesn't work. The reason we haven't had a general plan finished is because we have not had competent city managers. It is the job of the council, the main job, the most important job, to hire, fire, and supervise their city manager. I've asked council members after the process was over several times, what questions did you ask in the interviews? I can tell you they don't know the questions to ask. They didn't ask the questions you need to ask. We had some really good city managers. We had Fred Wilson, the city manager here, through Mayor Minor, Mayor Baez, Mayor Morris, until he left and got hired at Huntington Beach. We've had some okay city managers since then, but most of them have been not good. Now, I'm not talking about the current one. He hasn't been there long enough to know. In any event, that's part of what I'm going to bring to the city council is that knowledge, that experience, knowing the questions to ask. We're going to hire the right city manager.
So you guys want to know the truth why we don't have a general plan? It's on purpose. We don't have a general plan because if by law you're required to build something, you have to build it. And in our city, what we like to do is something called pay for play. So we can rezone a parcel so we can put a warehouse in your backyard, or a liquor store across the street from a nursery, or a cannabis store down the street from your kid's school. This is not a mistake. This is why San Bernardino is a city on welfare. Because we're an opportunity zone for politicians and criminals. And we know it. As long as we are uneducated and poor and getting welfare from the feds and the states, no one ever has to do anything here. And why would you? Because the powers that be and the past politicians capitalized. Why do you think San Bernardino looks the way it does? For over 50 years, it failed every single year. If you're under the age of 50, you've never seen San Bernardino prosper. Imagine that. Mistake, Highland developed, Fontana developed, Colton developed, Rialto developed. Poor San Bernardino, right? It must be the lack of a general plan. No, that's the thing. There are no mistakes happening here. I wish there were. I think the worst reality I ever realized is this is by design. That's why old San Bernardino politics need old San Bernardino politicians. Because it has to keep recirculating itself, and it's happening. Look in every ward's race, why they're coming back. Because we have more money than we did before they put us and made us broke. They're living high on the hog, and our city is suffering. We need a general plan now, and no one's asking for it. We sat in meetings. I sat in 19 out of the 21 meetings. Nothing. By design. What I want as your 7th Ward councilperson, I want to put in a specific plan on 40th Street, East Street, and Highland Avenue. I want this place refurbished. I want our local economy and local businesses to thrive, and the only way to do that is specify it by law. That you can't change this. You're not going to make this a cannabis row. You're not going to put liquor stores and gas stations and car washes on every corner. You're going to build places for us to eat, for us to enjoy, and be with our family and kids within a walkable distance of our home. Thank you.
Do you currently support the current San Bernardino police chief? And what do you think your role as a council person should be? The sequence will be Ortiz, Alexander, and Penman.
Chief has my full support. And for those of you that didn't get my mailer, you can see it tonight. Getting him here was not easy, if you guys remember. It was not popular not to just go with the hand-picked next person that the POA wanted. And in fact, a lot of us got pushback for going against that. But I am so happy we didn't fold to political pressure to keep Eric McBride here, because look at the wonderful guy that we got, who has in a year brought us from the #1 most dangerous city to #2. And that may not seem like a lot, but my goodness, 50% reduction in murder, 5% reduction in violent crimes. I think over 13,000 pounds of fentanyl caught off the streets. It's an amazing feat. But I'm gonna tell you what worries me. And a lot of you know this because we were talking about it before here, is the relationship that our council member has with our chief is pushing him out of our city. And that's one of the biggest reasons I'm running, because we can't afford to lose him. He's not perfect, and he'll tell you that, but you know what? He cares. And he's dedicated 25 years of his life to this. And as a council member, my job is to listen to the subject matter expert. I'm a PhD in public policy. It's what I do for a living. I know what I know, and I know that Chief is actually is a PhD. He's a PhD in his field, and he knows public safety and he knows policing. And I want to sit and I want to support him. I want to meet with my community like we already do and take what our needs back to him and say, hey, Chief, here's what they need on Valencia, here's what they need on 29th, here's what they need on the Scooby-Obby, here's what they need down on Highland, this is what Del Rancho. I want to be able to talk to him and let him devise the plan and be able to bring that back to you, because an open, honest relationship is exactly what needs to be cultivated. But disrespecting Chief, which he's being done on the dais, talking down to him and acting like you're running the police department, can't come from our council member anymore. That's not how we're going to move our policing and public safety initiatives forward. Thank you.
Yes, I support the chief. I've known the chief since we were on the streets together in San Bernardino when he was at the sheriff's department. How the role of the council member is supposed to chief. I don't speak to the chief. I speak to my department commanders who run the north-south area. Those who I speak to. Those are the issues that when you bring to me, I bring to them. Whether it's breaking into cars or whether it's speeding or whatever, stealing catalytic converters, whatever issues, or whether it's dealing with our parks, the homeless in our parks, I take those issues to a person who deals with them, and that's Lieutenant Luna and Lieutenant Castro. Those are the people that you see at the neighborhood coffee with the cop all the time. Those are the people who I talk to. I support the chief. I've known him forever, and that's how we deal with that. You don't go directly to the chief as the council member. You go to your lieutenant, you go to your commanders, and then they deal with the issue. And they deal with it effectively and quickly. Thank you.
You've already heard what I think of the police chief. You need to listen to him. 7th Ward must have a council member who has a good relationship with our police chief. I was present at the council meeting when an officer-involved shooting had just occurred. And our council member stated publicly, we need to bring in an outside agency to investigate this officer-involved shooting. The chief had only been here a short time. Can you imagine what an insult that was? Can you imagine how much that offended him? It brought into doubt his integrity, at least into question. That's not acceptable. It is absolutely not acceptable. As police commissioner in this town for a number of years, as city attorney, I've known every police chief personally. Some I got along with, some I didn't, but I respected all of them, and I never attacked them, ever, the police chief, during a council meeting. I know that any one of those police chiefs that I knew would have been highly offended, highly insulted, and discouraged to hear one of his council members say bring in an outside agency to do our investigation. There are many of us here in this town who fought hard as elected officials to get a chief of police of color. Why? Because of our demographics. Because most of the complaints and most of the lawsuits filed against our city are filed by members of our minority community. We knew we could reduce those lawsuits. We knew we could reduce those complaints if we got a competent person in as chief, who was the person, and we got one, and what happens? Our own council member calls him out. Unacceptable. Time for a change.
Do you understand and support the current city manager form of government? And will you fully support and respect those professional staff, department heads, and if elected, your peers? The sequence: Penman, Ortiz, Alexander.
A good leader can lead in any form of government. City manager form of government was not my top priority, but you folks said different, and that's fine with me. You're in charge, I'm not. I will do everything I can to support the city manager. I will not attack him in public. If I have disagreements with him, it'll be discussed in private, perhaps in closed session. That's where it should be discussed. When people come to council meetings and they see council members fighting each other, attacking the police chief, attacking the city manager, who wants to come to a city like that? Who wants to stay in a city like that? I represent businesses all the time who may be coming here, mostly Circle K's and 7-Elevens, because that's who comes, but that's fine. You know, Yum Donuts, those are my clients. Those guys sit in the audience and they listen to what's going on with the city manager and walk in and say, I'm not sure I even want to build another one of our stores here. And I can understand that. I will back the city manager. We have to do that because that's what the choice was. And we're not going to change that. We're not going to go back. That's not what being elected council members is about. It's about taking the form of government we have now and working with them. I've never had a city manager that I can remember send me a memo like one I saw that went to Mr. Alexander from our last city manager, Charles McNeely, saying that this, our council member had directed staff to find everything they could wrong with a certain business in town and get it closed down. And Mr. McNeely properly castigated the council member for doing it. That is not your role. He said, do you know how intimidating it is for a council member to say that to a staff person? I never did that as city attorney, but I was elected too. Never, in the Star Mayor, I never did it, and I won't do it until I become your councilman.
So this actually wasn't the entire question we were supposed to be asked tonight. And I want to make sure you guys hear it because it'll give context to why we're being asked whether or not we would support the charter. There are ongoing investigations by the city of certain council members and their actions involving treatment of city staff, inappropriate behavior, and other matters. And I think it's extremely important that we call that out and not cover it up. Because what was disheartening to me was that on December 6th, Councilman Alexander voted in closed session to put out Kimberly Calvin's investigation. But the public didn't know he had an investigation that wasn't disclosed publicly. That is a lack of transparency and a lack of accountability. And the memo that Charles McNeely sent out to the city attorney and the council, to the charter committee, and to the FPPC was almost identical to what former city attorney Gary Sines had sent to John Valdivia right before we got the 5 lawsuits. We can't afford council members or mayors who think they can intimidate people. That's not what this is about. Whether we like the charter or not, we voted it in. And that means that whoever we hire, whether we like him or not, or her, is the city manager. And we need to make sure that there are respectful relationships. And our staff, man, I was staff, and I'm going to tell you, the way that elected officials treated staff was awful. We were disrespected. We were treated like nothing in the midst of a bankruptcy when they were taking our vacation and our holiday and our pensions away. I lived those days. So don't let anybody think that it was on the up and up and everybody was shaking hands, because that's not how it was. If you were an employee that did what you were told, you were treated like gold. And if you didn't, they tried to push you out. And that's happening all over again. We just got rid of a mayor who did that. You guys want to spend another $3 million in lawsuits for a 7th Ward council member that wants to have somebody called for harassment? I don't. And that's why we have to change that. That's why I want to be your city council person, because it has to be about respect. Thank you.
Now, I'm supposed to address this issue that you guys seen, and I can't address it because it's in closed session. But there are certain issues that you've only gotten one side of the story, so please remember there's always two sides to one story. Never just one side. About the city manager, every person that came up here to the open session that didn't want this city manager, 8 of them came from the 7th Ward. I got texts that night saying that we didn't want this city manager. And I listened to my constituents, which are you. You didn't, and I voted in how you wanted me to vote. I listen to you all the time when it comes to issues. When those that sit up there and ask me, whether it be about Airbnbs or whatever it might be, I listen to you, and then I bring that information to the city manager. As far as staff is concerned, I respect all the staff. Ask the staff. Ask them. Those of you who have a relationship, ask the HR director. Ask the assistant city manager. Ask the finance director. Ask them if you have a relationship with them and how my relationship with them is. Because I don't get things done in the 7th Ward by having a conversarial relationship with them. I must have it because I have a good relationship with them. That's how it is. We have to have those type of relationships with our staff, good ones, in order to get stuff done. And that's what I have with my staff on all my levels of city council members. And I have a relationship with my city council members too, because nothing can get done by yourself. If they don't like you for some particular reason, they think that you're not going to get something done, you don't have a proper relationship with your city council, this is not going to happen. Your issues are not going to get addressed. You saw it last night. If a certain section of a council, people don't like you, like it was supposed to go to the next city manager, the next mayor pro tem, it won't happen unless you have a relationship with your council.
With the recent San Bernardino city manager's hiring of 2 assistant managers, what is your opinion concerning this action? And do you think that you will be able to ameliorate a more cooperative team atmosphere? And if so, how? The sequence will be Ortiz, Alexander, Penman.
I absolutely disagree with the hiring of 2 deputy city managers at $1 million a year to the taxpayers. And since Councilman Alexander wants to talk about his voting record, he supported it. But I can't get my street paved, you can't get your lights turned on, we can't get economic development. But we got money to hire 2 people after hiring a city manager at the highest salary, $325,000 we've ever hired somebody, with an assistant city manager at $290,000. And the HR director that slid his resume across the table is the new deputy city manager? And he said, yeah, go ahead, no job description, you don't need to be qualified. That's not the representation. And as someone who stood there and said, don't do this, he didn't listen. The only reason he didn't vote for Montoya is because the guy was fired 5 times, and what were you going to do? They knew it was going to pass. And told God will forgive you 7 by 7 by 7, and I got to get out of here. Stand by your convictions. That's the problem with this city. Too long, we want to go along to get along. That's how we got here. You want to talk about a council getting along together? Do you really want to get along 100% with people who are trying to work in their interest and not yours? Is that the council member you want that just slides in? There's a reason. John Valdivia was just back meeting with the city manager, Juan Figueroa, Teddy Sanchez, and Fred Charette, looking at economic development in the downtown. That's what getting along with your council members. That's why Damon voted to expose Kim's stuff, but didn't expose his stuff. Because that's what happens when you get along and make deals, right? Come on, guys. No more. here. We cannot play politics with your lives. There are consequences for that. And the consequences have to stop here. We are going backwards. If you want to get into the future, then let's go. I'm the candidate that's going to get you there. Enough with the nonsense. Thank you.
Who's next?
The hiring of two deputy city managers. I've been trying to get one assistant city manager. What they don't understand is this city is the only city in the region, a city of this size. San Bernardino is the 102nd largest city in America. We have one city manager. We have put forth 20 matrix. I've been trying to get one city manager, just one to help the current city manager. Couldn't get it done. Tried again, tried to bring it forth to get another city manager. Just one. Because every city has at least 2 city managers to help with the matrix of the city, how it's done. Just because you hire 2 deputy city managers doesn't mean those positions will be filled. We have 187 vacancies now. But to try to get it done, see, they're not there. They don't see the mental health of our assistant city manager. You don't see her desk, what she's going through to try to manage a city of this size. I do. I'm concerned about her health. I'm concerned about her mental health and what we do as a city and the amount of work she has to do as one individual for more than 800 employees she has to contend with. So to get me one deputy city manager to relieve her load and to help with the matrix of the city, just like every other best run city, yes, let's move down that path. Yes, let's move forward so we can become a better run city. It's about efficiency. And that's what that vote was for. Doesn't mean we have to hire that last person. It just means that we have to move forward to be a better, efficient run city. And we want Mr. Montoya to do his best. I want him to be the very best city manager we ever had. I will do my best to make sure that he gets to be, because his being successful, ladies and gentlemen, means we are going to be successful.
I'm far more concerned about the mental health of our police officers who are working back-to-back shifts in this terribly crime-ridden city. The best management practices, I'm sorry, we're second highest murders in the country, and we're focusing on what our best practices doing? No. I would have voted no for those city managers. That money, Mr. Alexander said, that we, the council, are stewards of your money. Yeah, and so you spend over $1 million to hire 2 top-paid people? You know how many cops you could hire, for that kind of money? Lots of them. This isn't about getting along with the city manager. I mean, I was just endorsed by the City Employees Retirees Union. I got along with everybody in that group when I worked. But I get along with everybody in the city? No. We had crooks in the city. We had incompetent people. And boy, did I fight with them. But didn't get up at a council meeting and call somebody a name or use the F word like one of our council members did on TV to describe another council member. You don't do that. I'm endorsed by the San Bernardino Police Officers Association. I'm the only candidate in this race that's been endorsed by them. Why didn't they endorse our incumbent? Why did they endorse me? Because I worked with that department and those guys for years, and they know my record, and they know the things that I'm capable of doing, the honest things, and they know the things I will not do. I will not go against the law, not violate ethics. I would not have voted for the current city manager either, but I wouldn't have had to, because if I'd been on the council, we never would have got there. We had some really top-notch candidates for city manager. But leaks out of the council session as to who they were got back to their employers, and they pulled out. So we ended up with one of the bottom guys on the poll. That's because the council can't get along.
Leaving San Bernardino behind for a moment, what do you think is the number one priority for enhancing quality of life in the 7th Ward? And how do you plan to accomplish that priority in your term if elected? Sequence is Ortiz, Penman, Alexander.
Our number one priority is getting homelessness under control, which in direct relation meets with public safety. My plan to do that is to make sure that we approach it in its multifaceted way. We got Patton, but Patton isn't just going to be handed to the city of San Bernardino if we don't have a representative that is saying our mentally ill and drug addicted need to be placed there. That's going to take a voice, and we don't have that voice right now. The city was just granted $35 million in HUD funding, in addition to all the millions of dollars that we've done nothing with this year. We need an elected official that actually has a plan. They're supposed to be building transitional housing down on G Street, but in the interim, we need to make sure that we're looking for options for Tay housing. Putting homeless people in hotels for 28 days is not sufficient. We need to be utilizing Laura's Law, which will allow us to put more mental health treatment facilities open and available so that people are off the streets. We have homeless children that are in our schools. Why are we not working with the school district to make sure that they have a place to go? They're sleeping in cars on Highland Avenue. Our veterans are living in our parks, and we have no relationship with Loma Linda University Veterans Center. We need to cultivate that. The county of San Bernardino is right across the street from City Hall, and yet we are not working with behavioral health to make sure that every mechanism available is being utilized by us. That's what it's going to take, is someone that knows what to do. Look, everybody talks about, well, 25 years ago and 10 years ago. What is happening today is different. The whole scheme, the whole look of who's homeless, let's not forget you have working families that are literally one paycheck away from homelessness. College students attending a major university sleeping in their vehicles. This cannot just be a not in my backyard. It has to be everybody collective together. And I'm the candidate that can do it for you. Thank you.
Good question.
The question was, what do you think is the number one priority for enhancing quality of life in the 7th Ward? And how do you plan to accomplish that priority in your term if elected?
Clean up the 7th Ward, clean up the city, address the homeless situation, and do more about the crime by supporting our police chief. Those are the things that I intend to do. And those things will work. They absolutely will. I've lived in the 7th Ward for over 30 years. I've lived in the city for over 70 years. I lived here when it was a great place to be. I was city attorney when it was a great place to be. People say it's been bad for years. Mayor Baez, who's sitting over there, is one of the most successful mayors we've had, as was Mayor Wilcox and Mayor Minor. We didn't have all of these things going on. Why did Mayor Baez come to me and ask me to run? First for mayor, now for council. I know what you need. I drive around our ward and the whole city all the time. My children live here. Grandchildren, I see our streets. I see what's going on over there at the Waterman on-ramp and off-ramp. We used to take care of that. We had city attorney investigators that kept that down. Even 10 years ago here, you didn't see that. You saw it in other cities already, but you didn't see it here. There are ways to do it, but you have to know how to do it. We all agree what the problems are pretty much, with the possible exception of thinking that, the mental health of the city manager and department heads are more important. I mean, if you run the city well, you take care of that. That happens. There is so much we can do, but you have to know how to do it. And there are specific ways. And I've kept up with those changes. I don't just represent people in front of the San Bernardino City Council. I'm in front of other cities. Riverside, Redlands, have clients all over the Inland Empire. And I don't see what's going on here in those cities. I just don't see it. When I listen to those meetings, I sit through them and I think, man, that's an intelligent council. Not only the way we used to be, that's the way we're going to be again when we have someone on there who knows what to do and how to do it. Thank you.
Seventh Ward. Everyone agrees that it's the homeless. But no one's had a plan. But we do have a plan. And we have had a plan in the city. We implemented that plan already. We established a coach team to deal with the mental substance abuse issues of the homeless. Let me say again, we instituted that. We're going to build a city shelter. That's a plan. It's going to be where the School of Hope was. We're moving forward on that. We have a general outreach team that the city has that goes about and takes care of the homeless. We have those plans. They are in action. They are now. They're not thinking about it or going to do about it. They're now. That's what this council did. That's how we put it forward. We know about Patton and Assemblymember Ramos and going to open that up. That's an unfunded mandate. So we have to continue to advocate that they get funding from Sacramento. Remember, most of this problem comes from Sacramento, and they handcuff the city on what we try to do. But since it is done, we have addressed it. We continue to do FTEs for the police department. We did that. We voted on that. That was the quality of life team. I see issues in the 7th Ward. I drove around with the last Community Economic Development Director, and we forged a plan of how we're going to try to bring back Highland, E Street. We sat there and we forged what we call a facade program. Ask them. It's where we can get a grant because we had a little money left over from the ARPA money. And Mr. Freeman and I said, well, maybe we can do something with the face of the facade of businesses on Highland. So we moved down in that direction. And that's where it is. It's still sitting in CED. I'm still hoping that will come out this year to help businesses on every part of the 7th Ward with that facade program. That's how we deal with the 7th Ward quality of life. We make sure that when you're walking down the street that you don't stub your toe. We gave an extra $1 million to Public Works to make sure that they raise and fix the sidewalks in the 7th Ward, because that's quality of life. That's what we did. We don't talk about it, we do it.
The homeless population appears to be still on the rise in the city, and the formerly homeless residents of the newly converted All-Star Motel are embroiled in the investigation of its developer, Shangri-La, for fraud by the state of California. If you are elected, what would you do differently that would avoid those kind of pitfalls? The sequence is Alexander, Ortiz, Penn.
Well, the state selected Shangri-La. First of all, it wasn't us. It was the state that Shangri-La. So unless we need to, as a community, address some of these issues to our state representatives, we need to address them and make sure that they're doing the right thing. We, like I said before, we have addressed this homeless issue. We can continue to address it because it's an everlasting problem. Just recently, one of the 7th Ward residents just said she saw people dropping off homeless people in our ward. That's everywhere. You want to address something? Let's get on the people that are dumping the unsheltered in our ward. That's where we need to be addressing some of our issues. Trying to find out where they come from and stop them from doing that. Because I know my unsheltered. I see them every day when I drive up La Bodega on 30th Street or on 30th Street. I see them. I know who they are. I'm like, who's that? That's a new person. I'm out there. I'm out there on those encampments. We gotta figure out some way to stop the bleeding. Because you can address it, but until you figure out a way how we're gonna stop the bleeding fundamentally, why everyone is being homeless, they said, we're not dealing with the school district. That's not true, because I certainly meet with Mauricio. I've talked to him about this issue. I've talked about with the school district how we can collaborate together, because I don't want to get a phone call, which I do, and say, hey, I'm homeless, but I got 2 children. So I call Mauricio. Hey, Mauricio, how do we work this? How do we collaborate together? Those talks are already in the works. It's not future talking. We're doing it now.
Read the question.
Please.
The question was, the homeless population appears to still be on the rise in the city, and the formerly homeless residents of the newly converted All-Star Motel are embroiled in the investigation of its developer, Shangri-La, for fraud by the state of California. If you are elected, what would you do differently that would avoid those kind of pitfalls?
If I was elected, I would have listened to me in 2020 when I stood in front of the council and told them that John Valdivia was trying to bring Shangri-La into our city. And they were under investigation in LA because of their dealings with their corrupt councilman, Jose Huizar. This isn't new information. This is a Google search. This is what happens when you have a council person that does their homework. Because that's really what this is about. You have to, 1, follow the money. In order to follow the money, you have to know that there's corrupt money coming in here. You have to know where to look. That takes knowledge, experience. That's what I've been educating the community to do for years. These aren't by accident. When Redlands took them, I reached out to their council. I said, what are you guys doing? This is not on the up and up. They're working with our mayor. Did they listen? No. So when we move into transforming into transitional housing, we need to make sure, just like they didn't do with the city manager they hired that got fired 5 times, that they're not bringing in corrupt development companies. They just did it, by the way, with the thing at the Oxbow. I mean, they're bringing LLCs. Last night they were going to give $1 million to an LLC for a hotel, and if you Google them, they are a transportation truck company. This is what's happening in our city. It is just a free-for-all. And it sounds good. Anybody having a really good shift with homelessness? Can you see the difference and can you see the change? Because I can't. What I see is people sitting behind the assisted living. I see bodega. I see people taking baths and showers and hoses on people's lawns. I see the mentally ill coming up to people's homes and ringing doorbells or dropping off cakes. It's where is this change? A year ago, they put a homeless declaration in place. And you know what we got? Hotel vouchers that a judge said are no good, and that's why the ACLU was able to put an injunction against us. Now you can't get the homeless out of the park. Now you can't force them to do anything. Where is the progress, you guys? I want you to make sure you're listening, because it all sounds good. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? And now here we are, 17 days from an election. It's about results. It's not about I wish I could, because you were elected to do, and there's no excuse. There's no excuse for failure, especially when we're paying for it. Thank you.
Our incumbents had the better part of 4 years to fix the problem. He says we're acting, we've done it. Haven't done it. It's gotten worse, not better. Why? I'll tell you why. Our city's homeless program has been to hire nonprofit corporations with high-paid directors to deal with our homeless. And they did the same thing with the police crime situation. They hired these companies. One was out of Chicago because their program was going to solve everything. Chicago, for heaven's sakes. And they hired them and they paid them millions of dollars instead of hiring more cops. I agree you can't arrest your way out of crime, but doggone it. I mean, it just makes no sense. That's not being a steward of our money to spend millions of dollars on nonprofits to bring in programs that don't work and haven't worked. Here's what we do. And the city council was told this over a year ago. I was there when it happened. City Water Department owns 5.5 acres on 6th Street where the old School of Hope is. I'm very familiar because my brother, who was handicapped, went there for years and worked there. 2 big buildings. Most acreage is empty. You can put modular housing. You can even put tents there. It's on a major bus line. There's very few residences nearby. There's very few businesses nearby. I feel bad for the ones that are, but that's where you put them. That's what our expert, our homeless person suggested. Nothing's happened since that. Nothing significant. Why? Why do we keep waiting? I don't understand that. You don't keep waiting. You don't keep talking. You don't come back and run for re-election and say, we've already done it. Go over there to La Bodega. Tell me we've already done it. Come on. No. What we're hearing is bull feathers.
That's a new one.
What is your stance concerning California SB 50 from 2023, Senator Bradford's bill that limits police officers' ability for traffic stops? What action are you willing to take to involve the San Bernardino community? The sequence will be Ortiz, Penman, Alexander.
I'm vehemently opposed. Not being able to pull people over legally hurts our community. And what our police chief and it's really, as he'll always say, his team has been able to show is that through traffic stops, that is where they're stopping the drugs. That's where they're stopping the guns. That's where they're stopping the sex trafficking and kidnapping. You take that away, and it's a free-for-all. And get it, I understand there are social ills that people are trying to correct. But the way to correct the course is not to make it a free-for-all. Because 99% of us are doing it right. Because there are 99% of great officers out there serving and protecting our community, and that 1%, we can't just stop everything. We just have to reform how we handle those situations. I am the only candidate up here that has been fighting publicly against these laws, speaking on behalf, reaching out to Sacramento, standing at our council meetings, saying that these laws coming out of Sacramento are hurting us. They are creating an environment where criminals are having a heyday and we are stuck in our homes. If you look at my card and you pull up that QR code, I made a video about this last year. Because we have to, it's not about taking endorsements. Look, I get he's endorsed by the POA. They didn't talk to us. They went to him and said, you're our candidate. So it's not about who the POA supports or who's there. It's, do you really believe in public safety? And what does that mean? Because I don't need a union to stand behind me with money to support officers and support our community. Because we're important without politics. And that's what, without taking the endorsements from the higher ups, the state and the assembly, I didn't do that because I want to call them out. Not have to be quiet because they endorsed me and gave me a check. And that's what our council's doing currently. He is endorsed by Baca. You're not going to go to the county and tell the county, hey, I need you to stop what you're doing and we need more. That's why endorsements are not the best thing, because they put the politics ahead of the people. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't like this at all. You know why? Because I used these very same techniques when I was active. I know exactly how effective they are. I used those techniques to get guns off the street, because that was my job. I used those same techniques to get narcotics off the job. And if you think that it just affects San Bernardino, it doesn't. It affects everybody in our region, because we're not the only one affected by it. So those people are not getting stopped in Rialto. Those people are not getting stopped in Redlands. Those people are not getting stopped in other cities, but are traveled to our city. I talked to Bradford. I don't have to do that. I talked to Bradford, and I displayed my displeasure with him about that particular issue. I don't understand you. So when you get up there to Sacramento, we share what we don't like. We share what we don't like with the senators. We share what we don't like with the assembly people. We share, and I shared what I didn't like about this. I'm like, I don't even know. I told him when I saw him. And I just saw him. I saw him on Saturday. I said, how do you do this? That handcuffs law enforcement. And I told him that I use those same techniques and how we stop people and pull. Remember, the PD got 1,200 guns. And part of that was with that technique. It is a vital technique. We should all get our pens and get on the computer and tell the Sacramento to reverse this law.
Vehicle stops are not happening because any council member told Sacramento to do it. What's going on in Rialto and other cities, I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that, but I can do something about San Bernardino. And that's where my focus is. That is a bad law. The chief told me when I was running for mayor that we are already seeing an impact on the number of murders because the vehicle stops were getting guns off the streets. I was at a coffee with a cop earlier this week. They said they're now getting an average of 3 guns a day in this city. Most of them are larger amounts, but that's the average. They're getting drugs off the streets. They're getting fentanyl off the streets by doing those stops. Now, just going to Sacramento and testify doesn't do it. I'll tell you something we did years ago. And it's because it's an example of the type of thing you need to do and your council should do. LA has no prisons. San Bernardino County has several. When a person is sentenced to prison, and then they commit another crime in prison, which many of them do, they got paroled to the last county of commitment, which was San Bernardino. San Bernardino City Attorney's Office wrote a law to change that and reverse it, that when you get paroled, you had to go to the first county where you were committed. And I reached out to legislators. I got sponsors. The Chamber of Commerce worked with us on that. They had their Safe Community Action Team, SCAT, had meetings and hearings. We got that law enacted. Today, if a person commits a crime in Chino and he was sent to prison by LA, he doesn't get paroled to San Bernardino. He gets paroled back to LA. That's how you really do it. But you have to know how to do it. And God bless our council members. They're doing probably the best they can, but they just don't know what to do. They just don't know. I know. I've done it. Been there, done that. Not my first rodeo.
Oh, yeah, we just switched the order, but that's okay. Okay.
Why are you personally running for the 7th Ward Council seat? Sequence Penman, Alexander, Ortiz.
Like the rest of you, I'm disgusted with what has happened in our city. I love this town. I've been here all my life. Great town. What can I say? I mean, kindergarten, Civic High School, first 4-year class at Cal State, second ASB president there. This is my town. I know it inside out. And I cannot stand to see what happens. It's just awful. Now, I thought I was done, really done, when the mayor's race ended, in 2022. Boy, the demographics have changed, and no old white guys are going to get elected to in this town anymore. Does that sound racist? Not meant to be. It's been a fact. But I'm not sure it is. I thought I was done. Police officers came to me. Not because I'm going to do their bidding. You'll see during this campaign, if that gets into that, you'll see a copy of the Sun News article saying that the Penman's break with the union was loud and noisy when the union tried to get me to give my C job as city attorney when they were suing their police chief. I don't do that. That was the only time they didn't endorse me, by the way. I know what to do. Mayor Vyas told me that. Judy Penman, President CEO of the San Bernardino Chamber of Commerce, says we need somebody who knows business. And we need somebody who knows law enforcement. And we need somebody who's not afraid to pick up the phone and call the chief, but instead calls their public safety commissioner or a captain or a commander. That's fine to call them too. But when you call me as your council member and you got something upset, the chief needs to hear it. He needs to hear it from me personally, and he will hear it from me personally, not somebody else. Because you hire me. You fire me. You don't hire the public safety commissioner. You don't hire the police chief, the city manager. You don't hire the lieutenants and others. And I can guarantee you our chief knows what his top leaders are doing. And if he says to them, get on it, they're going to get on it.
I want to continue to be your council member and represent you. We have made progress in the city. We have raised the Carousel Mall, making way for new development and affordable housing for some, for young graduates and residents of the city. This development will not just help the city of San Bernardino, but it will help the region because we're not an island. I brought forth restricted truck routes for the city, so that those 18-wheelers won't beat up our streets and tear up our streets. I brought that forth, and as soon as that happened, the PD enacted and created a commercial unit to deal with that. And we're still trying to get those truck routes finalized. But I'm happy to bring that forward. As I said earlier, not only did I drive around the 7th Ward with our Community Economic Development Director, Mason Freeman, before he left, and came up with the facade program, but we thought about other things as well. 3 years before I took office, we had a problem on Sierra Way. And everybody knows what the problem is on Sierra Way. It's a river when it rains. It's horrible. So as soon as I got into office, I went there and I talked to Alice Keisha, one of our deputy city directors, said, hey, how can we fix this? What can we do to fix this? He said it's a county problem as well as a city problem. They need a connection. We need a relationship we don't have. Well, I got that relationship, and it's going to happen. What about Genevieve Ralston, the lighting project? Am I done, or is that 15 seconds?
15 seconds.
Well, the Genevieve Ralston light. 3 years before I got into office, the lady, one of the ladies on Genevieve said, hey, this hasn't been done in 3 years. We can't get it done. Well, Genevieve and Ralston will not be in the dark anymore. We got the lighting project. It was funded. We get things done. And I have other issues that he won't let me get to. But there's other issues that I wish to complete. Thank
Do
you.
it in the closing statement.
Oh, roger that.
I'm running for the 7th Ward because it's time for us to have a voice. It's time for us as a community to be heard. The past failed us, and we are stagnant right now. Everything that Councilman Alexander is talking about, I don't see it. I have an 18-wheeler that parks on a mountain view, so I'm not sure where these truck routes are. I see the homelessness. The lights are off. It's dark. One of the biggest complaints is how dark it is. It's not safe. People were shot. There's been a body dropped right here at the golf course. It's time to be realistic about where we want to be and who we want to be. I'm the only one up here that's not a politician. I didn't sit anywhere for 50 years. I didn't make promises that I haven't fulfilled. In fact, everything that we as a community have worked on, just as me as a resident, has come to fruition. We got Valdivia out. We exposed corruption. We got RDICO into the downtown before they killed it. We got funding into community cleanups. Those are things that I brought forward. We have to change. It's incumbent upon us because there's no one else to blame. If we don't show up for ourselves, we know our elected officials are not showing up for us. It's time for new blood. San Bernardino. And those of you who have been here, most of your lives came to me and said that. It's our turn. It is our turn for the community to take its place in the Inland Empire. The days of old are done. The failed promises are over with. Did you guys hear the plans tonight? When you look back, who gave you a plan? It's great. Yeah, we all love the chief of police, but he's not the answer. All the stuff that's going to happen isn't happening. And the 6th Ward is coming up behind us because they had a council person that they elected who brought them 40 years into the future in just 3 years. There is no excuse. You don't need 7 votes. You just have to have the political will to want to get something done. Thank you.
You've been great as an audience. We're now gonna go to the closing statements. So hang in there for 9 more minutes and we'll be there. Okay, so closing statements, 3 minutes each, and the sequence will be the reverse of what we did in the beginning. So Penman, Ortiz, Alexander.
I'm sorry to hear my years of service to this community reduced to some political tactic to get somebody out of office, because that's not why I'm interested in running. I've told you why I'm interested in running. I do know what to do, and the guys there now just don't know that. They need some help. Mr. Alexander talks about Sierra Way. I was representing Little Caesars when the city wanted to move his driveway right over the Army Corps of Engineers drain location, and I had to tell them they didn't even know it was there. They didn't even know that it was a Pioneer River before it was paved. You have to have some institutional memory. You have to have someone who knows what to do. You need someone with a proven track record. You know, I know the attacks that were made on me, and I think we pretty much dealt with those during the mayor's race. They were false. That's the type of stuff Mr. Alexander is talking about, getting somebody out. I'm pointing out what the problems are, what our city has not done, and more importantly, what our elected representative to the council has not done. We don't need another 4 years of failed leadership for the city, and certainly not for our own ward. I think Mr. Alexander has probably done the best job he could do. But it's a huge task. We have a lot of problems here. You watch those council meetings and what you see. And it wasn't just the POA and the Mayor Baez and the Chamber of Commerce that asked me to run. It was a lot of you, many of you sitting in this audience. And when I first got asked, I said, no, hey, I've been there, done that. No, you've got to go back. You know what to do. One group that supported the current mayor even said, the mayor needs your help. I don't know if she does or not, but I know she called me right after she got elected. We had several lunches, and we talked a lot, and I give her ideas, and she tries. But she doesn't have the support of the council that she needs. How's any mayor gonna do something when nobody supports her? Is it her fault or not? You can talk about it all day. All I know is I'm not going in there to fight with Mayor Tran. I'm going in there to bring progress to this city and to fix it. I know what to do. Let me know what I know how to do. And you will not regret it. You won't. That's why you elected me 7 times as your city attorney. Those 500 gang and drug houses, 6 gang injunctions, first in Southern California to do it. We did those things because it's a full-time job. Even if council is a part-time job, and with the money they voted themselves in for their raise, they're getting a lot of money. A lot of money.
Thank you guys so much for sitting through this. It's been great on this end. So, look, this is about leadership. This is about change. The last thing that we want is more polarization. And we know that exists by who supports you. We need to have a representative that talks to everybody, that meets and hears from everyone, It's not, are you that side or this side? It's, are we San Bernardino and are we the 7th Ward? We can all call out problems, but who gave you solutions? Because that's what needs to be brought to the table. Solutions. We have people who sit in drama. We have people who sit in corruption. But together, we can bring the solutions to the table and have it happen, because half the stuff that the council doesn't agree on, or it agrees on, is right there. They just need the right leadership to do it. We all agree we need to pave the streets. Let's get them done. We all agree something needs to be done with homelessness. Let's get it done. We all agree that something needs to be done with economic development. We need to get it done. But we don't have the right person. And I'm going to tell you, it doesn't take 75 years to know there's a problem here. And it doesn't take 60 years of work to bring you guys solutions. They're right here. You guys are the subject matter experts. You have said, why don't we try this and why don't we do that? We just don't have the representation. It's always, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. No, we are going to do it together, because change is a community effort. We saw the eyes had it and bankrupted us. No, San Bernardino, we are so much more than that. We are an amazing community of people. We are the county seat. Take your place and put someone in place. When I'm up there, you're up there with me. That's representation. Who's doing the agenda reviews with you now as a community member so that you know what's coming up? That's me. Who's meeting with you, talking about public safety, throwing out ideas, writing to the council members? That's me. Who doesn't respond? That's that guy. It's time for responses. This isn't about titles. This isn't about redemption. This is about the future. And the future is right here and right now in front of you. And with your vote, we will make San Bernardino an all-America city again. You will be able to leave something, a legacy for your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren that you can be proud of. If you elect me as Dr. Treasurer Ortiz, the 7th Ward City Council person. Thank you.
I want to thank Nina and Ferrier, Mike and Ferrier for just hosting this. I want to thank you guys for coming out, and I appreciate it. Just like to share with you, so everybody's here to talk about what they plan to do. I've been talking about what we have done and what we are doing. Please remember that. Not what we're planning to do, what we are doing. So listen, when I took office, there was only 4 code enforcement officers. I promised that we would double. We quadrupled. There are now 20 code enforcement officers. I brought forth that we need to enforce, we need more parking enforcement officers. When I took office, we had 3. We now have 6. That's not enough. But those are the ones that go around to deal with those cabs on the street. We made, and I made a caveat, listen to this caveat, when we hired our last 6 code enforcement officers that I brought forth. I said they need to work nights and weekends, right? Because that's where the issues are, nights and weekends. That's a plan. I brought that forward, and I did the same thing with the parking enforcement officers. Okay, in 2021, I suggested that we negotiate with the county to get our property tax, because we don't get our property tax. The council agreed with me, and the city manager was supposed to do that. I voted for the Economic Development Department, solely focused on economic development for the city. That's all they do. They don't do anything else. And they're supposed to bring in events. There's one person that does that. I brought forth the Regional Housing Trust to help with affordable housing and to get funds for the city. I brought that forward, and my council members agreed with me. I brought forth the graffiti removal on future items to agenda. We came up with a plan, the city did. We hired 2 more personnel. They now remove graffiti from 24 to 48 hours. My council members agree with me, and that's what we now do. I voted for the Spanish translation so that all can hear what we have in a greater array. I conducted a 7th Ward Summit, economic summit, so you know what's happening in your ward. I conducted that, so you know what's going on commercially. what you know what's going on with infield, with housing development. That happened. I did a 7th Ward Small Business Grant Forum to share with you, our residents, the opportunities, the grants for that ARPA money. And also, the second funding of ARPA money is coming. And so I advocated to lower the $50,000 threshold to a $25,000 threshold so more businesses can be impacted by that money. I voted for the Quality of Life team, which added 6 more officers to the roles, and I also added a mobile surveillance unit. I'm Damon Alexander. We do stuff now. We don't talk about it. We'll be about it. I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you and good night.
I think we've had a good opportunity this evening to hear the thoughts of 3 very qualified individuals. We're very fortunate here in Ward 7, and I hope that you'll give good thought, and more important, that you'll make it to the poll and cast a vote so that we can have the best leadership possible. And thank you so much for coming tonight.